I want to ask you guys, did Frank the Tank get robbed of power slap glory on the road to the title series? Frank the Tank is one of the best slappers in the world, and he's one of the most experienced fighters in slap history with over 20 plus matches, and he never once has committed a foul. He's had warnings, but he's never committed a foul in competition, and I think that says a lot for the soft-spoken, well-mannered gentleman that Frank the Tank actually is. You know, coming in with such a pedigree, Frank the Tank should have been up there with all of the contenders. He goes up against AJ Hints in his first ever match. And I just want to, I don't want to shine a negative light on AJ because this was the first time he was ever slapping another human being in the ring, with the lights, camera, action, everything rolling. So, I want to talk a little bit about it. Obviously, when this took place in December, this was the second time. So the Nevada Athletic Commission, the refs, the judges, all those people are very inexperienced in the sport of slap fighting. So, getting used to how all the rules take place, what's a foul, what isn't. I've also heard that halfway through 5 or 6 matches in, they actually stopped the entire event. And this fight happened within one of those first 5 events. Because they needed to relook at what they were doing because the injury risk was too great for the commission, and they needed to determine why they were having so many injuries within those first risks. And a lot of it was coming down to clubbing. A lot of it was coming down to the fouls in terms of stepping. But you can't really blame the fighters because the fighters were up there for the first time ever, and it was also up to interpretation as to how they interpreted those rules, and some say that they weren't laid out completely fresh. So I want to show you first a still image of Frank Holland, Frank the Tank, lining up his shot against AJ Hints. So if you look at Frank, what he's doing is he's lining up the fighter with the actual bones of his wrist slightly off of the chin. So then when he follows through with more speed, it lands exactly on the chin, not too far back. That's how a pro's pro will do it. That's how Frank lined up. We'll roll the clip. We will watch Frank in his delivery, and you will see that Frank hits fair, and you hear the ref saying, that it was a clean and fair blow. When we switch over to AJ, let's take a look at his delivery. When you look at AJ's delivery, and when you look at the actual contact as it hits Frank, you'll notice something quite different. You'll see the angle of his wrist very much cocked back. You'll see that the bones of the wrist hit Frank's jaw first and the fingertips follow. And if you also notice, there is a bend, there will be a slight bend in AJ's elbow, which also causes that slap to be more like a punch versus a slap. The only casualty and death out of Poland that has ever taken place was actually with a similar, slap to this, where the elbow is bent, the wrist is cocked. This needs to be taken out of the sport. Once again, I don't think AJ's a bad guy. I've heard nothing but good things. Apparently he's a great kid, brings the energy, the people around, power slaps seem to love him. So I'm not giving him any negative press in regards to that, but I think you're going to see him clean that up because they are going to start calling that for clubbing, which they did do. And if you also notice, John Kennedy also throws something very, very similar. But, being in the heavyweight category, obviously AJ can throw it with a little more mustard behind it and can cause more damage for people. If you slow it down and you break into the stills, you'll see the angle that I'm talking about, not only in the wrist, but also in the elbow. Which can cause significant head trauma to the opposing athlete if that's done. Also looking at it, in retrospect, we can also look at the defense of AJ. And I want to throw up some still images of when Frank was hitting AJ, and you will notice I put a straight line through the middle part of the tape on AJ's ear, and you will see that as we go through Frank's, initial windup when he's about to strike AJ, that he moves through and that tape is completely off the line by the time that he finishes. AJ was dipping his head inwards towards Frank's hand, causing him to strike high in the temple, kind of the top of the skull. It's reported that Frank actually broke his hand from hitting AJ higher up. The unfortunate part about this is that Frank was medically suspended. So even if Power Slap wanted to put Frank in the house, which, I mean, why wouldn't you? The only people that he couldn't beat are Darius the Destroyer and Wolverine. Why would you not want to have him in the powerhouse, the Power Slap house? And so, unfortunately, being medically suspended, it was a tough break for Frank the Tank. Hard to see the way that they edited it, obviously on TBS. It also looks like AJ, might have stepped as well. You can see his heel, just vaguely up as he brings his weight back onto it at the very end, which is unfortunate. I don't have a great angle to see it. Wish I could validate that with somebody else. Like I said, not trying to put AJ down, but I just want to give Frank the Tank credit with being one of the most astute, well-rounded, slap fighters in the world. Which I think is incredibly important to take a look. Frank has been there and done that in a house full of slap fighters that it was their first time up on the platform, in the stage. I personally think Frank the Tank got robbed. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Did Frank the Tank Holland get robbed on the road to the title series? And will we see Frank back in Power Slap and getting that second chance? My name is Corey Swergos with Slap News. I hope you have a fantastic day.